All right, let's get right into it. So you've built a front end in Python, and now you're facing that big, inevitable question. How in the world do you turn this thing into a mobile app that people can actually download?
In this explainer, we're cutting straight to the chase. We're going to look at the most practical, real-world ways to get your Python project from your machine into the App Store. No theory, just the core strategies you actually need to think about. Okay, so when you boil it all down, there are really only 3 realistic ways to do this. And which one you pick? Well, that's going to depend completely on what your Python front end is and what you really need your app to do. We're talking about wrapping a web app, actually running Python on the phone itself, or using Python just as a backend. So let's kick things off with the fastest, most direct route you can take, the WebView approach. Look, if your front end is already web-based, maybe you're using Streamlit, Dash, Gradio, or you have a fast API backend serving up some HTML, this is without a doubt your quickest path to getting an app into the store. So what exactly is a WebView app? The idea is actually pretty simple. Imagine your mobile app is just an empty shell. Its main job is to hold a special kind of web browser, one with no address bar, no buttons, that just loads your web application from a URL. So the user taps an icon on their phone, but what they're seeing is your live website powered by your server.
And this is where we get to the really critical trade-off. The advantages, they're huge. I mean, it is so fast to build. Your Python code just stays on the server where it's happy, and this is a big one. You can update your app's features just by deploying your web app. No need to go through a painful App Store review every single time. But yeah, the downsides are just as big. Getting it to work offline is a real headache. And if you want to use something like the phone's camera or Face ID, you have to build this special bridge to connect your web code to the phone's native features.
The good news is you're not building this from the ground up. There are great tools out there. Capacitor is super popular right now for exactly this kind of thing. It gives you the shell and a lot of those bridges to native features right out of the box. Cordova is the older kind of legacy option. And of course, you can always just embed a web view inside a Flutter app if you're already in that world.
All right, let's switch gears completely. Our second path takes a totally different philosophy. We're talking about running your Python code directly on the phone. In this space, you've basically got 2 main contenders, Kivy and BeeWare. Kivy has been around for a while, it has a solid community, and it definitely works. The catch is that Kivy draws its own UI, so your app will have a distinct Kivy look and feel, not necessarily like a standard iOS or Android app. BeeWare, on the other hand, tries to do something really cool. It aims to use the actual native buttons and sliders of the phone. It's a fantastic idea, but honestly, its maturity can be a bit hit or miss depending on the specific widget you need, which can make things a little more complicated. So why would you go down this road? Simple. This is your go-to option if your app has to work offline. If a core feature is processing data locally on the device, this is the way. It's perfect for when that logic absolutely must run on the phone, and you're okay with the UI not being 100% pixel-perfect native. Okay, on to our third and final strategy. And this is what you'll see in most professional, large-scale apps. The idea here is to completely separate the front end from the back end. So with this model, Python plays to its strengths. It sits on a server, powering a fast, scalable backend and exposing all the data and logic through an API. Something like Fast API is perfect for this. The mobile app itself, that's a totally separate project. It's built using a dedicated mobile framework like Flutter or React Native, or you go fully native with Swift for iOS or Kotlin for Android. And here we have the ultimate trade-off, right? The benefit is just unparalleled. You get the best possible user experience, hands down. It's snappy, it's responsive, you get easy access to every single native feature the phone has to offer, and it's super scalable. The downside, though, is a big one. You are literally building and maintaining 2 completely separate code bases, one for your Python backend and one for your native front end. Okay, so we've laid out the 3 main paths. Now comes the most important question. How do you actually choose the right one for your project? Let's break it down and make this really practical. We can pretty much map out a clear recommendation based on what you already have. Think of this as your decision-making cheat sheet. It's pretty straightforward. Starting with a web UI like Streamlit or Dash? Yeah, just go with the web view. It's the simplest path. Got a desktop GUI built with something like Tkinter or PyKite? I hate to break it to you, but there's no magic button. You have to rebuild, and you'll be choosing between the on-device or native API approaches. Is working offline your #1 killer feature? Then you're looking at Kivy or BeeWare. And finally, if you absolutely need that top-tier user experience and can't compromise on native features, then the API-driven approach is really your only professional option.
All right, so let's say you picked the fast route, the web view. Awesome. But your job isn't over yet. Now you have to face the final boss, the App Store review. And trust me, it can be a real pain. You have to understand, the two big app stores have completely different mindsets. The Google Play Store, honestly, it's pretty chill. As long as your app works and follows the basic rules, your WebView app is probably getting in. But Apple, oh, Apple is a totally different beast. They're famously, notoriously strict about this. For anyone targeting iOS, you need to tattoo Guideline 4.2 minimum functionality onto your brain. The core idea is this: if your app just feels like a glorified bookmark for your website, if it adds absolutely no value that a user couldn't get by just opening Safari, Apple will reject it. It's almost guaranteed. But don't despair. You can seriously boost your chances of getting approved. Here's your success checklist. The whole game is about adding genuine app-like value. You need to integrate at least one native feature. It doesn't have to be complex. Push notifications or Face ID for logging in are perfect examples. Make sure you have a proper splash screen and some app navigation. And this one is huge. Have a nice custom screen that shows up when the user is offline, not that ugly no internet connection browser error. This really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? Take a pure WebView app. On Google Play, your odds are very high. You're probably good to go. That exact same app on the Apple App Store, it's likely getting rejected. But, and this is the key, the moment you add that little bit of native value we just talked about, your chances with Apple shoot right back up. It makes all the difference.
And that leads us to probably the single most important piece of practical advice I can give you. Do not think of native features as some last-minute thing you tack on just to please the reviewers. You need to plan for one or two of them right from the start. Seriously, it'll force you to build a better app, and more importantly, it will save you from those absolutely soul-crushing rejection cycles with Apple.